Sometimes you gotta just start. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. This is the intro song. This is the Oh Quits His Day Job Motivation to Get You Started podcast. A podcast from a guy who really doesn't know what he's doing for people who really don't know what they're doing. Join me, your host, Greg Owens, a.k.a. O, as I unpack the hows and whys of people who just can't seem to get unstuck and start pursuing their dreams, just like me. We'll grow together and figure this thing out. I'll figure out a podcast. You'll figure out how to pursue your dreams. We'll grow together and we'll get better as a team. O Quits His Day Job Motivation to Get You Started. Coming at you right now. Bow, bow, bow. Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to episode 8 of O Quits His Day Job Motivation to Get You Started. Really excited about today's show. We got a guest back for a change. We haven't had guests for a few episodes, and glad to be interviewing this guy. He is just one of the most solid dudes in comedy. He is possibly the most prolific MC and host in New York City. It's the hallmark of his career. He's one of the best. He's great. He could be a headlining comic, and he runs shows. He does a phenomenal job at it. James Mattern is our guest today, and I couldn't be happier. We're going to be talking with him about dreams a little bit, and the irony of it is, I don't know if irony is the right word. He's not a dream guy. He doesn't like that phrase, chasing dreams. And as we're going to learn, it to him, a dream would be to throw a touchdown pass in the Rose Bowl or something like that. Which, by the way, any dream, if it's something that physically is possible, you can get it, man. But what James does is he'll illustrate the happiness of pursuing his dream or his calling or his passion at the risk of his security, really. That was more important to him than having a steady, safe job. And he busted out of Las Vegas, headed to New York City because that was his will, that was his compulsion, that was what he had to do to be happy in life, regardless of the result. Doing the comedy, performing the art, that was going to make him happy. And that's awesome. We talk about dreams and the dream, it stays a dream if it's something that you're never going to pursue. But I never used to like saying dreams either. But the thing about it is you can say dream and then turn it into a goal, and you break it down into steps and you can work towards it. Then it's not just a dream, it's something you want to do. Okay. And that's kind of the difference between having a dream that you're never going to go after, maybe, racing a Formula One car someday or whatever. And it's a dream, but you're never going to do anything to get there. That just stays a dream. We're talking about taking dreams and making them into goals. So James Mattern, we're going to be bringing him in here shortly. Great comedian from New York City. You can catch him on podcasts. The Commissioner of Comedy podcast, which is still out there. Another podcast he and Shuli Agar do called Thanks for Coming Out, which is a comedy podcast about bombing. It's actually very entertaining and very enlightening. And main thing, he got an album that he just put out called The Check Spot. Came out back in November. It's doing great. Went to number 1 on Interrobang. And he's got a YouTube special of the same thing coming out June 3rd, The Check Spot on YouTube. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to get James Mattern into the room. There he is, James Mattern, joining us in the room, buddy. Thank you very much for being on, dude. I really appreciate it.
Greg, I feel like everyone probably says the same thing. Hey, thanks for having me. I'm just going to say your name, Greg.
There you go. Dramatic. I dig it. I like it. Well, you definitely don't follow the fray necessarily always, but
too dumb to.
So
yeah.
This show, this podcast, I've told you, we're trying to help people get where they want to go. That they've got goals, they've got dreams, they don't know how to pursue them, they don't know where to start. And your story is interesting because tell me real quick. You started out in Vegas. I don't want to talk for you. You grew up
I'm
in
hiring
Vegas,
you as my
basically, right?
lawyer, so you better get used to
Yeah.
talking for me. You're hired. You got to defend my ass like you're Sal Goodman.
Give me a lot of work, man.
No one said it was going to be easy, Greg. I grew up in Vegas.
So
I was in bands. My bands were more funny than good. My last band broke up on stage. At that point, I had about a semester left of college, and I was somewhat jaded and arrogant and thought I was going to find joy in being a music critic or a film critic. I graduated and I had no criticism classes. I wrote in the paper. I only got hired to do college or sorry, high school sports, horrible things like girls volleyball and freshman football, and wasn't satisfying and felt weird. And in my last semester, my buddy came from back from the military and was going to be a comedian. And he would stay over. We would rent comedy. I would show him chords and things on guitar. And within months, I was a comedian. He was a musician. I at one point realized I wasn't going to be satisfied writing about the arts and creativity, that I needed to be creative. So I went to an open mic and I never looked back. And it was just, I stayed up that whole night. I did okay. I stayed up all night. My grandma was sleeping in the living room and because her back was hurting her. And she's like, "What is this shit? What are you doing?" I'm just writing stuff that was never used, but it just felt like an epiphany. So that's what it was. I
right,
knew that I had to perform in some way. I had convinced myself to go to the other side, and I wasn't ready to be on the other side.
right, okay. So it wasn't ever a question then for you. It wasn't like you said. It wasn't a dream to be a comedian. It had to happen.
Maybe at one point there's a dream where I mean the Playboy Mansion was still a thing there. You're like arrogant. You're like in 2 years I'll be at the Playboy Mansion fifth. Like I think there was a big anniversary, like the 40th or some shit. It's all. I mean, of course you're young. You think those things are important and that you want those. And fame means a little more to you when you're younger. But I'm even then, yeah, always like with the punk rock background. I didn't care. I mean, it just got to a point where it's the only time I was happy. I mean, that's the thing is performing makes me happy and makes me forget about the other pains and things that could happen in life. So that's why I ended up doing that. It became no other
Right,
option to me. It just made me feel good. And those, you could barely get on stage in Vegas. And so, like, those 4 to 6 days of waiting to get on again would be anticipation like nobody's business. And I would get very depressed waiting to get there.
yeah,
And
okay,
it would almost make you not enjoy the moment because you have to wait so long and you put so much pressure on that moment because it was sometimes you do it once a week. So that became a big
right,
thing. So ultimately, like when people say like I moved out to chase my dream, I didn't chase a dream. This was for years up till probably in the last few years. Um, you ask people ask me, "What do you want out of this?" I'm like, "I don't know. I just like doing it." I moved to New York because I could get up and do this every day, and I knew that that would satisfy me and bring joy and would help complete me as a person. Is that I could get up every day and do this thing that I enjoy, and in Las Vegas I could not, and that's what it
right,
is. So it's really weird. Yeah, it's crazy. I just feel like this is what I'm supposed to do. So when people say dream, there's aspects of it that are like a dream. You know, playing
right.
playing the Beacon was pretty cool. Um, I think we might be doing Radio City. That will be pretty amazing. I couldn't in my
Wow,
wildest
that'll be
dreams
awesome.
imagine that. So there's cool aspects that are dreamlike, but yeah, to me, a
Yeah,
dream would be if I hit a three for the Celtics, or if I threw a touchdown in the Rose Bowl for Michigan. Like that to me is a dream. That's nothing. That's never going
yeah,
to happen. It's just
right,
impossible. It just
yeah.
it just couldn't. I mean, I wanted to be a rock star. I mean, I'm never going to headline Coachella, so that's not good, or Lollapalooza. So that's a dream. But I
You
also
never
get weird
know though,
because people
bro.
say you live in a
If you
dream.
wanted it,
What's that?
if you want it bad,
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
want to
I'm
headline
sure if I
Coachella
want it
bad enough,
bad, I'm going to headline Coachella. So that is the thing too. I think people get weird with their dreams. I think it's some things are achievable and some are not. I mean, we've put it in everyone's head with all these underdog movies that anything is possible. Look, fuck it, I'm not getting on the moon. It's not happening, guys. What am I going to do, Greg, to get on the moon right now? If I wanted to get on the moon,
right?
there is not a cold chance in hell of me getting to the moon. It's just
Exactly.
not going to happen.
But
We have to be
But
realistic on some of these things. It's so I'm going to get to the White House. You're fucking 75 and on heroin. You're not getting the god. You're not going to be
what are you,
president.
is that your Joe Biden imitation?
That's all of them. I don't know if you've noticed.
75, he does.
We're not electing anyone young.
Yeah, that's for sure. But the thing about it, the one thing I do want to always get across to my people, the people, my 14 followers,
They all have dreams
is
too.
well, that's the thing. If anything you come up with that is physically attainable to do, you can do it. You just got to put the proportionate amount of work into it. You know what I mean? You can't say, I want to be a rock star and then just sit in your basement playing an acoustic guitar once a week. That ain't going to get you to be a rock star. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
It's what are you going to, I
So,
mean, you have to put effort into things and people
right.
sometimes do not. I think that is kind of an American way. As much as
Yeah.
we say that it's hard work, I think we all want to be given stuff. I mean, there is a bit of privilege for everybody, and we just
Right.
anticipate getting what we want, which is,
Well, you have privileged me with an excellent talk show guest by being on my show.
well, boy, I mean, I can't believe these 7 minutes are that good. Thank you. I mean, of me just spitting nonsense. You know what's weird, dude?
but no, that
So like when I was told, like when people say like live the dream, it's weird because when you do like stand up for so long, there's gonna be so many aspects of this that isn't dope, and you question your
sure.
choices, and it's weird when people are like, "Hey man, you're living your dream." You're like, "Yo man, I had to throw bed bugs off me at a hotel that was like a demilitarized zone last night, and I got
Okay.
paid $75, and the booker says he's gonna send me another 25. Like there's been times of that where you're like,
Right.
oh, this is not a dream. I mean, this is a fucking nightmare. And it's almost an addiction and a sickness that I have to do it. So that's where it
Right.
gets weird. It's like
And
you living
you
your dream. Is it? Is this a dream? If this was your dream, you'd wake up with a cold goddamn sweat.
but you did leave you had a pretty sweet setup in Vegas. You had an opportunity. You made the decision to go to New York instead of take this job, right? You had a pretty good job in Vegas,
I
or
was
an
in the union.
opportunity.
I was a server. I was
Okay.
in the union. I could have been a shop steward for the union. Also, many opportunities to get into management. My family has a background in that. I could probably have been a pretty good manager of a restaurant. I think that's a skill that I can handle. And made six figures. I had corporate places I was working for, themed restaurants. I could probably have been a GM somewhere by now. And but somewhere on the line in between, probably would have blown my brains out because I would not have been satisfied. I would have had all that
Exactly.
money in the bank and God knows great vacations and all that. Probably would have banged hostesses. Not saying that managers at restaurants ever did. That's never happened in the history of
Right.
restaurants. I never
Nah.
saw that trap. I never saw those guys do that. Never. It's just a rumor and innuendo. So all that great stuff, and I would have probably killed myself. I can say that with some truth. I think that because I just wouldn't have been satisfied. It's not what I wanted. I would have settled for what I was told to do instead of what I knew I had to do.
Right. That's an excellent point. Settling for what you thought you had to do, because that's what a ton of people do, is they don't go for it because they got to stay safe. Me, I mean, I've always wanted to be a comic since I
Yeah,
was 17, and I didn't start until I was in my 40s because I thought it was ingrained into me. Go to college, get a job with a Fortune 500 company, pack away your 401k and all that stuff, which thankfully worked out for me because now I can spend a lot more time trying to be a comic. But I also probably would have been just as happy to be broke doing comedy from the get go. But that's the point.
well, that's the decision you make. So the
Right.
decision it comes to, are you willing to not have things because the ultimate makes you feel better. So I made the decision that I could die broke as a comic. I probably still will. And I would be satisfied. I made a decision that even if I didn't get on TV or didn't get anything big, would I still, if there was an open mic on a Monday and I wanted to work out something and I'm 75, would I go do it? And it was without a question. I said yes. It's just if you were told right now, this is what I tell people: if you're told right now, you have a goddamn soothsayer who 100% accuracy can prove that everything they've said has come true, and they were like, Look, you're never going to get any late night spots. You're not going to get this. You're not going to get that. Nothing big's going to happen to you in the world stand up ever. And if you then still want to do stand up, then you're a goddamn stand up, and that's it. And there's nothing they can do to get you to not do it. It's just you love doing it. So that's a stand
Right.
up. And that's where I get with
Right.
it's no longer a dream at that point because the dream is over. You're not going to achieve anything in it, but you truly love doing this. Just like those people who paint. There's so many people who paint really well and have made no money off it. They have like a real job, quote unquote real job, but they just love painting.
Hmm.
And that's awesome. And that helps complete them and make them better at everything else in their life. It's pretty cool, man.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think that comes down to just where where your happiness comes from, you know. But what uh, did you ever have sex? So you don't even have second thoughts. There was nothing. You never even looked back. You were like, boom, I'm done. This is it.
I mean, there's times I almost quit. I mean, there's times at the beginning I almost quit. I had a real like moment where a local contest, I didn't even make the second round, and I felt I was probably in the conversation of the top couple of talents. Like I knew I had something, and I was told I had something, and I took a horrible L. And I went home that night and I cried and I listened to music. I was angry. I was confused. I might have had a couple pops. I listened to the song Next Big Thing by the Dictators over and over. And I made a pact with myself um, that in a year I was either going to be done or they would regret cutting me and not making me, not allowing me to go to the finals. And then the next year I won the contest. So I
Good.
didn't have to
Yeah.
fucking quit.
You wouldn't
But
have
I made a
anyway,
vow.
brother. I don't think you would have.
But I made a vow at that point, and I've done several of these, and I tell people to do this is uh I'm obsessed with like sports documentaries and all that, and I watch them before
Hmm.
gigs a lot, and especially ones with spite. And when people are told they can't do something, I love to have that. I love to have that challenge of like, oh, you're not good enough to do this. Well, fuck it, prove to yourself you can. About a year ago, I got back from a funeral and I had an opportunity. And on my way to that opportunity, the opportunity was going to be later in the night. I had to go work at another club. That club sent me my spots for the month, and the spots were no weekends, just Tuesdays. And I was furious. I was spending $70 in a car ride to get there in the rain. And I was living far in Brooklyn. And I text my boy Hendry. I go, buddy, find me a place in Manhattan. I'm gonna go get. I'm gonna get past the Comedy Cellar tonight, and I'm gonna change my life. And I performed with Spite that night, and I got passed, and I did well at the other place, and my whole life changed. I bet on myself because I wasn't happy where I was. So that's another thing to just dream. It's just, you're just expecting it to come to it. Like you're saying earlier, you have to
Right.
work. I didn't like where I was a year ago. I didn't like it. I didn't like living that far in Brooklyn and being having to spend $70 to be in a car for an hour. I didn't like any of that shit. I didn't like being told I was only good enough for Tuesdays. I didn't like that shit. So I had to go and do something about it. Doesn't mean it's going to
Right.
work every time, but it means I went and did it. And you have, that's what part of this is. Oh, you don't like where you're
Yeah.
at? Then do something about it.
Set a goal and go after it. You know, you can't. Yeah, you can't just have the dream. You got to have. You got to break it down into goals. You know what I mean? Got to New York City, got work, got past at the cellar. You know, that, you're soaring, man. I mean, not, you know, you probably were soaring before COVID. I met you during COVID, so you know, lately I've seen you online just killing it, opening for Chris Stefano all over the country, and just and
Well, it's been good, but
best part of it.
it's been fun. It's been good, and it's just you just keep building to the next thing, and that's it. And the keys to trying to be present and to enjoy the moment, and to not just brush it off because it takes you so long to get things, and so you should breathe it in and enjoy it. But then also
Right,
realize that it will pass, and then you got to go to the next one.
right. Now you got a. Now I don't know if this was a goal that you had marked for yourself, but let's talk about the check spot.
All right, yeah, dog.
Your your album just came out on Spotify and all the and whatever stuff's called, the fucking MP3 stuff.
That's right. Whatever those things, ravens. If you want to get a raven to deliver to you from Game of Thrones, we do all that. The Pony Express will give you
Is there
transfer.
hard copies of that out there?
I have, yeah, no, I do have I have vinyls. There's limited vinyls left. You can go to Pinch Records website and you can buy them. I don't. I think we only have a handful. I have some. I haven't sold any yet. I was supposed to give some out to people. Oh, but I just thought the fucking postage. What are you going to do? I got to go to the goddamn post office in 2022. But we'll figure that out.
Who knows if they're getting there in one piece, man?
Yeah, yeah.
Hand delivered.
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually going to fly out individually to everyone's city and
Yeah.
just give it to them. So
But
it came
it's
out
called the
November
check
11th.
spot. Tell us about
It
it.
was supposed to come out, shit, man, end of 2020. It was supposed to come out. It got pushed back so many times. I don't know if you're familiar. Guns N' Roses had that album when they didn't have Slash and Duff and the real guys called Chinese Democracy, and it kept getting pushed back. We were kind of joking that we're going to call this because it got pushed. I mean, I announced it coming out 6 different times on podcasts and that. We were going to jokingly call it the Chinese flu democracy because in the middle of COVID. Not
Yeah.
saying any. I have no issue. It's just because that was a term. It was just a joke. Whatever. Whatever. I'm not going to
Comedy.
start no shit with whatever. I'm no conspiracies or anything like that. But it was just funny. It's like that's crazy because this has been pushed back so many times. My record label wasn't going to put it out. I was doing check spots for New York Comedy Club before the pandemic ended. As the host on Saturdays, and it was going really well with me doing the Q&A, and it felt like I was really finding myself and being present, which is all I care about. And I go, let's record this. And we recorded it, and my label loved it, the idea. And then I finally got the tapes probably about 3-4 months into the pandemic. Things were opening up a little bit. I was out in PA where I met you doing Joel's outdoor shows. And I played these tapes to some people, and they're like, you got to put this out. And then I sent it to my record label, and they started piecing it together, and they freaked the fuck out. They did not know if it could get played. And we went back and forth, cat and mouse for a year. And
Man.
finally, it was like, you can take this somewhere else. I'm like, I have to. And I went to my boy Emilio and Scott, New York Comedy Club, and they started a label, and I was their first comedy record, their first comedy performance. And so, but also then we got rid of those tapes. They're like, well, we're opening again indoors. Let's just record. And so I did a whole weekend, and then we filmed it. We got the album out November 11th. We debuted at 1. We won the Interrobang Album of the Year. People told me I was crazy for doing it. And now the special's coming out June 3rd, which is almost different material. There's like 10 minutes of overlap, and now you can see things, and it's in black and white. It's shot beautifully by the great Patrick Holbert, and I'm very proud of it. And this is an example of betting on myself. This is all coming out of my pocket. The label handled their spot, but the special is my pocket. I'm paying comedians to do the release party June 2nd at New York Comedy Club, 10:30, 4th Street. The great band Night Cream will be closing. Yamanika Saunders, Phil Hanley, Andy Fiore. It's a great lineup. But it's an example of, all right, I don't like sitting around while the world was shut down. I have this stuff that really, I think, shows who I am, and I'm going to put it out there. I'm petrified no one's going to watch it. There's a great chance it will just sit there with 30 views forever. But I'm proud of it. So what the fuck am I going to do? I'm going to let it out there and let people find it at their will. And it's better than never putting it out. So you just bet on yourself and you do it. And it's
And it's going to be on YouTube, right?
on YouTube.
That's where everybody will be.
I mean, I'm waiting to see if Tubi wants to spend money on it, or what's another low level. Like Chris was going to put out his special on YouTube, and he even said that at the end of the special. And he goes, unless Netflix wants to buy it. I mean, I was there, and then Netflix buys it last minute, and they leave that in. It's hilarious. So I've been joking. I'm gonna get a last second late bidding war. Let's see. With what's the other one?
Yeah, Crackle, Tubi.
Yeah, how about Tubi? What about? Can we bring Quibi back? Quibi was together for what, 5 weeks? What's that real busted ass one? Roku. Oh, I want to be on Roku in between episodes of Adam West Batman and wrestling. Lucha Underground that got canceled 7 years ago.
I still got my Roku. I got my Roku from 10 years ago. I'll plug that motherfucker in and watch it, man.
Well, it's its own channel now, my friend.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
That shows you what I know.
It's one of those ones that when you want to rent a movie and they give you other options and they go with ads, and it's like Roku and Boyo or all this shit.
Yeah. All right, so that's the check spot, people. Definitely check it out. It is hysterical on Spotify and Pandora and everywhere, right?
Spotify, you can buy it on Apple. You can stream it on Apple
Yeah,
Music. If you have a subscription there, you can buy it. You can go to pinchrecords.com and buy the vinyl and be a hipster. Put it on your coffee table,
nice.
never play it. Just be like, I got a vinyl. I
But you got
appreciate things better than you.
it. Sounds good, man. And you got your podcast still going strong. Thanks for coming out.
Me and Shuli, we've been having some hiccups, but we should be putting up some new episodes here in the next day or so. I don't know when this comes
Oh,
out. If it
okay.
comes out in 2025, we might be canceled by then, but fuck it.
I'm gonna get this out soon, man. Took me like 4 weeks to get my first interview edited and posted.
What happens?
But
Yeah, that's what happens, dog.
yeah, you got to figure it out, man. That's what this is all about. Just start doing it, get it going, and enjoy. But what else you got going on? Anything else you want to promote, man? I really appreciate you coming on here.
That's it. That's what we got right
Yeah,
now. Going to start working on something else this summer.
cool.
Once we get
All
this
right,
thing out in June, we're going to focus on that. We got a few dates going to get announced, and I'll be in Europe, I think, in the fall, and then
nice.
somewhere, hopefully by next January, February, we can get something else out, another album or
Very
something.
good.
Talking about
Is
maybe dropping a couple singles. We'll see what happens.
yeah. Let me. I'm gonna swing back real quick. I don't want to take too long though.
Yeah, dog.
But is the check spot still a thing happen that happens at the clubs? Because out in the suburbs where I live, we got MC feature headliner. Headliner goes right to the end. Checks are coming out and all that crap. They're dealing with it, I
They deal
guess,
with
right?
it, and it's brutal, and people will notice there's sometimes a dip in the headliner. It's really not a logical thing, and the seller doesn't do it, and several places don't do it, and I think you could probably eliminate it. Um, Headlining, it's so weird that you're supposedly the person there to see, and
Right.
towards the end when you should be building to a crescendo is what, how much, what the I mean, you get screaming and servers
All the flashlights
pontificating.
come on at the tables and shit.
It makes no
Yeah.
sense that the supposed alpha of the lineup is dealing with that. And in the city and in club situations and showcase situations, usually a young comic or the host does a few minutes to do it. It makes no sense that this is how it is. I can't understand. I love our industry, but there's like, it's weird when people like
Oh,
love something and they defend everything that's ever done. Like people who don't want change to baseball just because it's been the same or their sport or whatever. It's like, here's an example. Comedy's great, but this is a dumb idea on the road that the headliner has to do it. I mean, it makes no sense. I mean, I'm glad I put out a fucking album and a special. It's cool, but like, it probably
yeah.
didn't ever have to have a check spot at shows. You could just
Right.
drop these at the end.
Right.
It,
Well, then they got to turn it over and get the next crowd in. Now that's the
well, that's the
right.
thing, but I mean, you have to have security. Is the problem? Not
Yeah,
everyone has security.
that's true.
They don't have full security. It's
Cool.
easier to have people pay during it, and then when the servers say everyone's in, then you don't have to worry about it. I mean, the seller has
Right.
like a bunch of security and shit, and a lot of other places that do that way have security. So it's like, oh, where's your stamp on your bill? Oh, I didn't get one. Well, you should probably get one.
Yeah.
Well, what if I don't?
Yeah.
Well, then you're gonna stand in front of me for the rest of the show. Oh, or the night. Oh, okay, dude. All right, that's how we do. That's how we do. All right.
Yeah. The seller is a machine,
God
man.
bless
The,
it.
the comedy seller in New York City, which is also where you can see James Mattern almost every weekend. I'm thinking, right?
Here and there. I
Or
mean,
during the
you
week
never
for
know.
sure.
You never know. And when I'm in
Yeah.
town, they're usually nice to me, but you never know. And
Yeah.
I also work in New York and Gotham and all that. And so,
Okay. Cool, man. Well, I appreciate
Greg,
you coming
thank you,
on
buddy.
here. Anything else I didn't cover that I needed to cover?
That I shouldn't be wearing blazers still in May to look cool. I'm
Nah, you
fucking
look good,
sweating
man.
my
You
ass
look good.
off.
Got your Raiders hat on
Yeah,
there. I like
I
it.
cut it. I got like a hole in it now. But the thing looks more
All right.
street. So there it is.
There you go.
Baby
All right,
boy,
my
thank
brother. I
you.
appreciate you coming on.
All right, brother. I'm going to count to,
All right.
15 Mississippi.
There you go. We're all set. Thanks,
Thanks,
man.
Playboy.
And there you go, folks. Very, very sharp take by a very, very cool dude, James Mattern. Make sure you check him out. Check out his new album, The Check Spot. You can get it on Spotify, download it, Apple, uh, buy it too. I mean, support the guy. He's great. You can also get the vinyl. Go to pinchrecords.com, buy his album on vinyl. And June 3rd, his the check spot special coming out on YouTube. Check that out. Sounds like it's going to be very, very cool. Thanks once again to James Mattern. Folks, we learned some stuff, It's not just about dreaming and not going after those dreams. You got to have a plan and you got to go get it. And if you got that passion, it's going to happen. All right, folks, thanks very much. We are out.
This is the outro music. It's the music at the end of the podcast. They call it outro. It's the me talking about the stuff that was on the show.
Thanks for listening, folks. This has been the O Quits His Day Job podcast, motivation to get you started. This podcast is brought to you by GregOwensComedy.com, produced by Greg Owens, music by Greg Owens, everything by Greg Owens, except the artwork. That was Joe Owens. Check him out sometime, too. Folks, don't forget to subscribe, follow, share, brag about, go to Instagram, all the stuff you're supposed to do when you like a podcast. We'll see you next time, folks. Thanks for coming out. Boom. Bow, bow, bow.